No real change from injury status from Monday. Tajay will be working through the protocol. Sneed will be out. We'll have a couple of guys. Calvin Ridley is sick today, just so you won't see him at practice. He's sick. Should be back tomorrow. Everybody else, just some normal stuff, normal rest. We might have a guy or two not practice today, but same procedure as the last couple of weeks, so nothing surprising there in that regard. Houston is a really good football team, so we got a work cut out for us. Go on the road, divisional game, always important. Get a chance to play against our division for the second time this year, and a heavily backloaded divisional schedule here. So we get a chance to go play against these guys that we see twice a year now, and it'll be fun to go do that. Division games always mean a little more; they count a little more. So we'll be excited to go play against Texans. It's a tough test. They're a really good football team. And with that, I'll let you guys go ahead.
Does film on those guys from twice last year give you maybe more data to be prepared for them in a different way, even though you're in your first year?
Yeah, there's always, we played against them, played against Houston when I was in Cincinnati last year, so we had a game against them. And then, you watch what was done here last year as well. I think, the scheme of what they do and how they do it is they believe in it. They don't change it a ton. So there's definitely historical data you can go look at in previous games from previous years that does give you some insight and just see some more things on how they play their coverage. Obviously, players change, but and how they play their scheme on both sides of the ball. But yeah, we always go through all the different film we can go through to see if we can gain an advantage somewhere.
The Isaiah Prince front, do you feel like he just needs to simply move up a few inches, or is there a technique involved there that he has to rework?
No, you just got to be mindful. The tackle's always going to be mindful that they got to line up on the center, not the guard. That's always the starting point for those guys, that they're accountable to line up on the center, on the belt line. And so you just got to make sure that as a tackle, you're not using the guard as your alignment. It's the center. So again, those are things that we just keep enforcing and keep working through over the course of a game. Sometimes guys start to creep back and back, but that's why they have the rule in place, and they want the tackles up, and so we have to abide by the rules. That's just how it goes.
Leroy working his way back with the back, and is he at a point where if he's healthy, he gets his job back, or is that?
He likely won't be back this week. Likely, he'll probably have one more week before he's ready to go again. So we'll just see how he comes through the week.
Divisional games kind of litmus tests when they're the teams you're going to ultimately playing for a playoff spot against. And when you talk about that incremental improvement under the surface, like you mentioned.
They're big. They're big for us regardless of record, because these are the teams you want to play well against. And this is your path to the playoffs is going to always run through the division every year, and you want to play well against your division opponents. There's always, it's always a little bit harder. It's a little bit faster. There's something more to divisional games because they mean a lot. They count for more in that regard. So regardless of the record, it's for us is a opportunity for us to go put our stamp on what we want to look like in the division this year. We've had one opportunity and didn't win it, and so we get a couple more here coming up, and we'd like to put our best performance on the field against the teams that we got to play twice a year.
In the past, about how closely you watch other offenses. So when you watch Bobby Slowick and what they do, what stands out to you?
They do a really good job with the run game. I think Joe Mixon, an old friend of mine, is playing really good football. They do a really nice job with the schematics of the run, and then they do a nice job of marrying up those boot actions and play actions off of it. Really well-designed scheme. Obviously, Bobby's time with Kyle in that system, you see a lot of elements of that, but you also see how they've evolved to their players. They got some really good players on their offensive side of the ball, and you see where they've sort of branched away from, that system in San Francisco, and they got their own spin to it. I think they do a really nice job. I think C.J. Stroud's a fantastic quarterback, and a lot of those things, he's sort of the engine there in the passing game, and they got good players in the perimeter. So it's a well-designed scheme. It's well coordinated, if you will, and it's going to be a tough test for us.
Franchise relocation. This game's always meant something special to the Adams family down the street from their other backyard. You ever get any sense of that from Amy during the interview process, joking around, or during anything here? Or do you get a sense of it from other people who've been around here a long time?
I think it's more the latter. You just get the history of it. this is my first time in this organization going against that particular one, and I understand the history, and I can see how it would absolutely mean more to the people that have been involved in it for a long time. And but to me, it's it's a big divisional game, regardless of who it is. It's the same to me as Indianapolis would be, as Jacksonville would be. But I do understand the historical context of it, and it does probably mean more to a lot of people. And but for us, we're just going to go out there and see if we can find a way to win it.
In terms of the run game, I know you said it was tough to run on Minnesota just because of what they do, but how important and what are some of the keys to trying to get Tony and the run game reestablished?
There's we got to do a better job than we did last week. Minnesota is the number one rush defense in the league currently. So that was a tough test for us, and Houston, I think, is not far behind them. So really, really good defense, very different style, but very effective. Those guys play downhill, they play fast, they penetrate. So we're going to have to make sure that we're on top of it. We got to get guys covered up. We got to move the line of scrimmage, and we got to put the schematic part of it in place to help guys get access into the second level. And all those things will be a part of the plan. And it's something that we're going to need to be good at in this game. You're going to have to run the ball effectively. Certainly don't want to be in third and long against this group. They're maybe one of the best third down and 7+ defenses in football. And it's you watch the tape against the teams they play in those situations, and they sack the quarterback a whole lot. And try to avoid those spots. And the run game is a huge part of that. That first, second down efficiency and not putting yourself in position to face that pass rush and all the games and pressures that they have is something that you try to avoid.
What have you seen from CJ that has allowed him the traits that has allowed him to excel so quickly in the NFL? And has something maybe caught up with him a little bit this year in seeing that there's more interceptions already than all of last season?
It's hard to say, what will, without really studying the last year and this year and really looking at that part of it. But I just think he's a really good player, and I think they've had some injuries they've dealt with. I know Mixon's been out of the lineup some. I know Nico's been out of the lineup some, and those things have an effect on the quarterback. But I just think that he's capable of throwing the ball over the place at any moment, and they do a really good job of putting him in position to do it. I think he sees the field well. He's tough. He can make a lot of different throws from a lot of different positions in the pocket, and we have our work cut out for us in that regard, because it's whether he's played to what he was last year statistically or not. I see the player and the talent, and that's all I really look at. And he's capable of throwing for 350 yards at any point that he walks out there. So it's going to be a tough challenge for us.
I imagine you were super involved scouting that draft with Will and CJ on quarterbacks that year. But do you find it fair to compare their two trajectories, being guys that came out of the same year at all?
No, I wasn't very. I watched loosely. We weren't in that market, so I've devoted my time to other positions as a coordinator. You got more guys to watch, but certainly was familiar with all of them coming out. You always want to know what guys look like and what the class looks like. But I would say this: that comparisons are tough because the situations are always different. Offenses are different, players are different. That's a really he walked into a Houston team that was that had acquired some pieces, and they had some stuff around him that allowed him to have a lot of success. They've done a really nice job there. It's hard to compare the situations. You can compare the statistics and the player and all that, but I think every situation is different. Every quarterback enters an organization out of the draft in a different place. There's different schematics involved. I think there's so many variables that it's really hard to make a apples to apples comparison on young quarterbacks, but inevitably everybody does anyway. So I'll let the guys make comparisons, and that's fine. I generally don't think it's as easy as just comparing statistics.
Given the inexperience of Baker and Brownlee at the corner spots, how do you feel like they've held up, with Awuzie and Snead out for so long?
Yeah, those guys have really stepped up. I've felt really good about what they've done, the plays they put on tape. They've been really, they've been challenged. They've seen some good players, and both of them have seemed to step up every chance they get. And Jarvis, being a young player in his first handful of games in his career, plays with a bit of a pit bull mentality out there, and I think that's really good to see. He doesn't have a lot of fear, and when he gets beat, he comes back and keeps playing, and that's what you need from those guys. And I think Baker has done a lot of similar things. He's played a little bit more, but still a young player, and again in a role that those were our third and fourth and fifth corners that initially when we started out the season. And to have those guys step up and play, I mean, we're still one of the best teams in the league against the pass. And that's a credit to those guys on the perimeter playing well. I've been really happy and pleased with how they've played, and certainly room for improvement. There's things that they both can be better at, but given their situation and what they were asked to do and how much they've played, I think they've done a really nice job.
Concerns that Brownlee might be getting, I guess, a reputation for the handsy physical play.
No, I mean, there's definitely things that he can clean up at the top of the route. But yeah, there's going to be, like I said before, there's a bit of cost and do business to that. If you want to play an aggressive style, which we do, those things do happen occasionally. We'd like them to happen less. But yeah, I think he's learning kind of day by day. Every time he sees different route stems and different breaks on where he needs to be with his positioning and his body position and leverage, and where he can be with his hands. And those things are things that he's kind of continuing to improve on.
It's clearly been better these last two games.
Who's that?
Will.
Oh yeah, okay.
But the points, you're averaging 15 in those two. What's the wall from the end zone?
No, the red zone right now for us has been a we've kicked far too many field goals. You convert those drives into touchdowns, you're going to have a better shot. Obviously, we had a touchdown that got called back. Those are things that we just need a little bit more efficiency. Our third down in the red zone has got to be better. I got to do a better job putting guys in position to be able to convert, because those are 4-point plays, and you want to average above 22, 24, 25 points. That's where you want to be, and we got to do a better job of getting those 4 points more when we have the opportunities, and haven't done a good enough job there to score more than what we've scored. And that's an emphasis for us is when we get trips down in the red zone, particularly when you get to third down in the red zone, we got to do a much better job than we have, so we can give ourselves an opportunity to score more points.
Personally, though, I'm sure like the trajectory is not where you imagine it would be. So what can he do personally, performance-wise, to get back on track to where you probably imagined he would be at this point?
I don't know that I had any preconceived notions about where he would or wouldn't be. I was just hoping that he would get better every time he went out, and would be able to operate the offense and get us in position to score points. And obviously plenty of room for improvement. I think we are improving, but we'd just like to see, again, those moments where we can convert a third down in the red zone, not stall out. And again, some of those are self-inflicted with the penalties, but just finding ways to be better when the field condenses. That's where I think we can do a better job, and Will can help that process as well. As when you get down there and it gets tighter, we have to find ways to make those plays and make those throws and score more touchdowns. Because ultimately, that's Will's job is to lead our offense down the field, and we need to score points. And right now, I haven't scored enough, and we got to keep hammering away at it.
In terms of, obviously the NFL is a wins and losses type of business.
Yep.
And Will was clearly frustrated after Sunday's game at not having led this team to very many wins. How much is that a part of the overall evaluation process that you go through with him? Because it's not all on the quarterback, but then again, in some respects it is.
Yeah, that to me is one of those things where there's a lot of other things that got to be better too. It's not just on the quarterback. We only have 2 wins in our, whatever it is, 9 tries now. So I hesitate to put any of that on purely just a quarterback evaluation. Yeah, wins. Can he elevate the team? Can we win games? That's a part of it. But there's a lot of other things that got to go into playing better around him that factor in. So I wouldn't necessarily put that in this point right now, the pure wins and losses on the quarterback. We got a lot of other things that we got to do better too. So that all factors in. But yeah, at the end of the day, we're all judged. Myself, Will, everybody here is judged on wins and losses. Ultimately, that's the production that we all seek, and that's how we're judged ultimately at the end of every year is did we win enough games? Did we compete? Are we in position to make the playoffs? Are we not? All those things. And, that ultimately is what it comes down to, but that's not necessarily how I evaluate the whole process.
You talked before about not wanting to take moral victories. The players have said it too. What's the difference between taking a moral victory and staying positive when you see those things beneath the surface you've talked about?
I think you point them out. And we do a good job of that. We point out the positives. We highlight the things we're doing well. We keep trying to stack those improvements on a weekly basis, wherever they're occurring. And then we still keep trying to correct the things that we're not good at and the things we made mistakes in. And I've always believed that there's a consistent approach in wins and losses. So I wouldn't necessarily, if you walked into a team meeting or you walked into a unit meeting with the offense, defense, or special teams, you wouldn't necessarily see a difference. You wouldn't maybe not know if we won or lost because the process remains the same because you coach the negatives just as hard as you coach the positives, and those are things that just every week you just keep trying to stack. Because it's if you ride the roller coaster and you overreact and underreact and you think you've arrived, then you haven't. That's sort of a bad place to live, and we try to manage that with as much consistency in the good and the bad as possible, and coach hard, and every week keeps coming and you just keep going, and that's all you really can do. And for me, that's the most important part, is that there's a consistency in approach, and the players know what to expect when they walk in, both after a win and a loss, and we know where we can get better, and we know what we do well, and we keep trying to stack those.
Do you believe in a rookie wall, and is this when it would hit, about the time maybe a college season would be ending, and how do you kind of get guys over the hump from that?
Yeah, that's usually. I don't know if I fully believe in it, but I think when you look at the totality of what these guys go through, they finish their college seasons and they spend an entire off season up until almost May, working out, preparing, combines, 30 visits. It's a lot, and then they get to this new place and they got to learn everything about the new place, how the team operates, what the schedule is, the expectations of being a pro. The volume of the scheme, everything changes for them. And they get, they stay here usually 2 or 3 weeks longer in the off-season program, and almost into late June, July now, and then they come back at the end of July, and you just that's a long span of really challenging things that they deal with, and then you get to the season, and usually when these college seasons start to get close to over, like they are now, you look at the schedule and you go, man, we got 7-8 games left. We got really only played half of the season at this point, and there's moments where it does that weighs on the rookies for sure, and you got to find ways to help them through it. There's really no other way to do it than just feel what it feels like, and then it changes for them after this year because they get a real off season. They didn't really have an off season prior.
In regards to Will, I wonder, are there times that sometimes he makes the harder throws more easily than he does the less difficult throws, or is that something that's any quarterback?
I think that's every quarterback. They when they make the big plays, it looks easy because they're talented and they hit the right looks, and all that stuff goes according to plan, if you will. And then there's parts where I think, and Will probably be the first to admit, like there's some things that are easy that you can do more of. There's more easy things that you can do as a quarterback. You can take some more completions. You can live for the next down. You can throw the ball away. All those things you learn as you play more, and when and where it's time to do something like that. But there's definitely things you can do as a quarterback that Will can do that can make his life easier, and I think he's gotten better at that over the course of the season, and starting to understand that more and more each week. A perfect example is one of the early third downs last week where we're getting a little bit of pressure, and you don't have to hold the ball to take a sack. Just get the ball out and get it in somebody's hands and see what happens. And so Chig catches the ball in a flat. It's 3rd and long. They all sink. He catches the ball probably 8 yards short of the sticks, and then he uses his legs to go barreling for a first down. And that happens across the league all the time. It doesn't always have to be the deep throw, the easy throw. Sometimes there's just a check down, and you let a guy go be a football player, and it works out well. So those are the things that he's learning and balancing and doing a better job of making the routine, the mundane throws and the boring throws more consistently.
Talk about Brownlee and Baker as 4th, 5th, when you started out. How much better might you be if you get back to blueprint with Cheeto and Snead back at some point fielding something close to the team you envisioned?
Yeah, that's the exciting part to me. I mean, I still, I think, L'Jarius is dealing with a legitimate injury. Cheeto had a legitimate injury, and hopefully get him back here soon and see what that looks like. And now you have real depth and real players, and you got 4 or 5 guys you feel like that can step in and play and either get you out of a game or two or play long stretch as well. And that part's exciting to me because I know what those other 2 guys are capable of and how well they've played in their past. And you get that level of play out of them with the type of players that have been developed between the other 3 guys playing right now, and you feel really, really good about where your secondary's at. That would be exciting.
Back to the rookie conversation.
I'll come right back.
What jumps out to you about their defense as you scheme for them, and do you see Aziz and Danico pop out pretty consistently?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean those guys are good players. Aziz is the heartbeat of that defense. He's their signal caller. He does a great job. He fits that scheme really well. Obviously familiar with D'Amico and that system from San Francisco. And then Danico, also you see. I've always been a fan of his. Playing against the Titans for the years he was here, he's a really, really good player. It's almost miraculous he can still do it at his age the way he does it. He's physical. He's an edge setter. He can rush. Those guys that make an impact, and they're really good players. They're also surrounded by a bunch of other really good players with Daniil Hunter and Will Anderson, and those guys are. That's a good front. Really, really good front. Go ahead, Kayla.
Going back to some of what Jim was asking about the rookies and just the younger players in general, a lot of them are playing and contributing for the first time and going through an adverse type of season. How much can they really learn from that, and how can that continue to build, since you are trying to build a really solid base moving forward?
They can learn. They can learn a lot. You learn way more. You learn way more in this league from failure than you do from success. And there's a lot of things that you see over the course of a season, both on the field and off, that will provide a whole lot of growth for these guys. And the goal is, at the end of this, these young players that are part of our core of guys as we move forward, they understand what it looks like when it's bad and when things don't go well, and they know how to manage through it. Because every year in the NFL, whether you're a really, really good team or you're a team that's not as good, you're going to face stretches of tough football. You're going to lose a couple games in a row, and when you've been in those moments, particularly as a young player, you realize and learn how to handle it, both from your work off the field and how you go about your business on the field. And those things, I think, are really important lessons in the NFL to learn, and we're learning them in bunches right now, unfortunately. I'd like to not maybe learn as much, but here we are, and it will benefit us, and it will benefit those players. Thank you, guys.
Still been so hard to come by the last few years.
Just got to be more consistent, just sustain drives, get ourselves in more manageable third downs. That's been the story all year. I think we're number one in the league in third and 11 plus, but it's good, but it just means we're there more often than others. So, I mean, just sustaining drives throughout and making the plays down there when we can. We got to be better in the red zone and more touchdowns, less field goals.
Are you seeing anything specific when it comes to the red zone as to why things may stall out there when you guys get down?
I mean, I'm looking at what I can do myself. I think, a couple opportunities, a couple times where I could have just, found a play or gotten out of the pocket and made something happen. But no, nothing comes to mind right now that's like glaring as to why it's not happening down there. We just got to do a better job doing our jobs.
Brian Callahan was talking about the throw you made to Chig. I think it was a third down play, and it was short of the stakes, but he's able to pick up the first down. Is that the kind of play that maybe you're learning to do more of? Maybe not necessarily taking like a deep shot in that situation, but allowing a guy to run and get the first down.
For sure. I think it's become apparent to me just how difficult it is to convert in those situations. Like, you look at the conversions across the league, you might find, 10% of them to be schemed up plays past the sticks where a guy comes open on whatever kind of route, where the other ones are broken plays or check downs where they can knife and get it. So, I understanding that, knowing how in those situations they're obviously going to be playing the sticks and let you have those underneath ones, and it's going to be on the players to make those guys miss and do what they're paid to do. So let Chig do that, and he took care of the rest. So that was cool to see.
Part of what you do is based on trust in the guys in front of you. How difficult is it for you to keep that trust dropping back when the rush is getting to you so quickly, so frequently?
Yeah, it's not difficult. I mean, there's no other way to do it. If that trust slips from your mind, or the feeling of trust between the relationship between you and those guys dwindles, then things just can start snowballing. So, we got to do our best to make sure that we know that, we have what it takes to give us the time we need to make all the throws that we need to across the field. And, I'm going to do my best just feeling out the pocket, knowing when I need to move, and just trying to continue to get better at feeling where the openings are in the pocket and trying to play within the timing of the play and just getting the ball out of my hands. So it's, everyone doing their jobs, and I'm just going to keep trusting those guys, and they've done a pretty good job the last couple of weeks. I got to do better, and everyone's got to be better, though.
Well, it seems like you got a little emotional, when you say, hey, man, I just want to get a win. When you spoke about that on Sunday, knowing that, like how desperate you are to get one, and then knowing how you got to balance, like not playing hero ball, like how are you weighing that equation out? So.
Yeah, it's like you can't be desperate for it. I think it's just something that you got to just continue to keep coming to work and knowing that how you approach your job and how you approach your day to day are the habits that create winning football. And we just got to know that if we just keep doing those things, then the wins are going to come. Can't press, can't force anything, can't try to play hero ball like you said. But I think if we just keep taking care of the small things like we have, then it'll come eventually.
To what extent do you pay attention to how CJ's career is going? Do you find any value in comparing yourself to Bryce or Anthony or any of those guys that you kind of came out with and comparing how your trajectories are going?
Yeah, definitely don't find any value in it. Just knowing everyone's situation is different, and that's the thief of joy is comparisons. So I mean, I'm not looking at those types of things, but obviously looking at them from just a player standpoint and how they've been able to play the position. Obviously, CJ's done a great job this past year and a half, and it's been fun watching him and seeing him develop in this league. I'm hoping to have a bunch of battles against him in my career, and I'm looking forward to get out there and compete against him Sunday.
Stay in touch with some of those guys, whether it's in a group text or just when you see each other at league events. What are conversations like?
Yeah, I'm not texting them too often, but we do obviously know each other. I feel like everyone in that draft class got to know each other a little bit throughout the different events and just things that we came across with each other throughout the draft process. But yeah, no, I mean, great dudes, all of them. I've been able to get to know all of them pretty decently, and wish them all the best for sure, except when they're playing us.
Well, you see when you look at the Texans on defense, a couple of guys that you were teammates with.
Yeah,
last
for
year.
sure.
What's that going to be like facing them?
Yeah, seeing Nico and Aziz out there is pretty cool. They're still playing ball at the level that we know they can. So it's we know that their strengths and their traits that we got to be ready for, and how we feel like we can operate against them. And across the board they got a stout defense. They play really well. They play connected. And it's just going to be on us to figure out what we're going to be able to do to make our offense work.
You talked about not getting too high or too low as a quarterback and trying to stay even keeled, but how much did it build your confidence Sunday to kind of get in that good little rhythm and flow there in the second half with the long touchdown and then the other one that was taken back?
It felt good. I mean, it was just fun. I made the comment, I just feel like I hadn't had that much fun on the football field in a while. Just when you're able to have the opportunities to make those types of plays, it's cool. I mean, I truly feel like throwing a football is the most fun thing on earth. And some games you have opportunities to make those kinds of throws, and that was one of those games. And it was fun to get those on tape and to give the receivers and everyone else confidence that we were able to make those types of plays. So it was really cool, a lot of fun. Felt like we had that period there in the third quarter where the momentum was going our way and things were going well, and we feel like we kind of throw the ball all over the place, and we didn't get the job done, but at least for that brief moment, that confidence was big for us in the long run, I think.
Well, how much is getting your first divisional win on your mind going into this game?
No, I'm just trying to get a win. Not thinking, the importance of the division games. Obviously, I know that they are, and every single division game I've been in, I feel like it's been an absolute battle. So we know how it's going to be. These teams know each other well, and the coaching staffs are dialed in and have a very thoughtful approach to how they're going to develop the game plan against us. And like I said, hopefully I'm got a bunch of games against the Texans in my career, and hoping to get my first win this weekend.
Just having these many divisional games kind of still to come, does that give you guys some motivation too as you try to find yourselves and you guys are taking steps in the right direction?
For sure. It's something to look forward to. The record's one thing, but we only have one game in the division so far, so we have a chance to not only improve our record, but have a chance to finish out the season strong in the division too. So we know how important the games are every single year, and having 5 in these last 7 is cool to keep in the back of our minds.
What progress has stood out to you from jumping back into the lineup over the last couple of weeks for you personally, just how you've seen the field or operated, and what's still the next step you're trying to achieve?
I haven't thrown the ball underhand or just past it, so that was an improvement. No, I mean, going back and watching the film, even of the first few weeks, I feel like decision-making standpoint, how I was seeing things was definitely a little bit better these past couple weeks, but it wasn't like a crazy difference. But I just think the consistency of it all brought the picture together a lot more. So being able to do the things on a more sustained basis, which still isn't up to our standard, and if we're able to have a passing performance like we did and still come up short of what we know we're capable of, then we know that the sky's the limit.
You kid about plays like that, but are there ever times when you're tempted to do something and you have, because you've learned that you have stopped yourself?
I mean, I think maybe like the sack in the red zone this past week, like we had a play against the coverage that we thought we were going to get a look at, and it wasn't the look, and kind of just tried to like get out of the pocket and make something happen, and I felt it come the pocket collapse on me, and I kind of just ate it and took the points. So that was like a learning experience, I feel like, in that way. But yeah, no, I can't think of a time where I thought that I needed to do something crazy and restrain myself. But yeah, I think there's definitely learning examples of that learning in the tape the last couple of weeks for sure.
Frustrating for a quarterback, I guess it probably happens to all of them, but sometimes the more difficult looking completions are easier than the so-called like the easier attempts. If that
You said
makes
the
any
difficult
sense.
ones are easier.
You're making the more difficult passes look easy, and sometimes the ones that seem to look easy
For sure.
are sometimes more difficult.
Yeah, we were having the discussion today, like a certain kind of throw that most people would look on tape and be like, oh, it's easy, but everyone in the quarterback room can agree that it's one of the harder ones. There are just certain ones that show up, whether it's when you're out of the pocket or a certain route that might not be too traditional. And yeah, but it is funny, like you get in a room with quarterbacks and your idea of what's an easy throw and not is very different from the layman, I'd say, so it's pretty funny.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Will.
it.